Good morning and welcome to Master Talker online class. If today is your first day of watching our video, please consider subscribing. Today we'll be talking about a topic in statistics that said regression and correlation. Okay, regression is the act of estimating or predicting values of a dependent random variable y, okay, on the basis of a known measurement of an independent variable x. Okay, you have to take note of the dependent variable y and independent variable x. Okay, that is if y is being plotted against x. But if you are plotting x against y, then x becomes the what? Independent, the dependent variable, while the y becomes the independent variable. Okay, but most of the cases y is always the dependent variable depending on x, because even in differentiation, when you have the y, the x, you see that what? Y is always on the top, x is down. And if somebody is carrying, if I'm carrying you on my head, you are depending on me. Okay, you are depending on me, because if you talk rubbish, I can throw you down. So y is depending on what? X. That is why y is the what? Dependent variable, and x is the independent variable. For example, now if I teach on this my channel for 2 hours, and you to pay me maybe $2 if I teach for 2 hours, okay, it means that the time I'm using to teach is what? Is dependent on the money they want to pay me, maybe the salary they want to pay me, something like that. Okay, and so the time there is the what? The dependent variable, while my x is what? Independent variable. Why? Because if my dependent variable increases, my independent variable will do what? Increase. So my salary depends on how the time that the hours I put in making a particular video. Okay, they say if x and y have a relationship with each other, for us to predict y from x, we have to be able to find a model for the relationship. The simplest model of this type of relationship is a straight line graph. And if you are plotting a straight line graph, remember that if you are plotting a graph of y against what? X. Maybe I have a straight line graph like this. Okay, now the equation for a straight line graph is what? Y is equal to what? A plus what? Bx. Okay, in fact, normally we used to call it that y is equal to mx plus c. In fact, y is equal to what? Ms plus what? Plus c. Okay, where m is what? The slope, and c is the what? The intercept. Okay, but in this case we normally call it that y is equal to a plus bx. We decided to write this one first, where b is what? Still the slope, and a is the intercept. That is if you are plotting y against x. But if you are plotting x against y, like I said before, x now against y, what are you going to have? You're going to have that x first is equal to what? A plus what? By. Are you getting it? But if you want to write it in normal equation of a straight line, okay, in normal equation of a straight, it's supposed to be x is equal to what? My plus c. Okay, but we don't use this, we use this one, a and b. Okay, so but they are the same thing. You are the one to name whatever you want to name. Okay, so that is that. So if we have that y is equal to a plus bx, let me call it equation 1. If we plot this graph where a and b are constant, okay, this equation 1 shows that that the regression line of y on x, it shows the what? Regression line of y from x. Okay, the regression line of y from x. But if it's this one, it will be the regression line of what? X from y. Okay, now the next thing we'll talk about is a scatter diagram. Scatter diagram, this is the pictorial result of plotting a graph showing the relationship between two random variables x and y. A line of best fit is plotted, okay, on a scatter diagram is at its best fit. Okay, now normally if you are plotting a graph, even without regression, the same thing is applicable here. So when you know the knowledge of graph, then you can answer questions on regression and correlation. Now if you are plotting a graph normally, okay, whether it is a regression graph or any graph at all, now we used to have what we call the line of best fit. And how do you get the line of best fit? For instance, I have a point here, a point here, a point here, a point here, like this, something like this. and I want to draw my line of best fit, I am going to check something, that if I am going to merge these two people, for instance, okay, I will now count how many people. If I decide to draw this line, for instance, watch, I decide to draw this line, I'm going to count how many numbers fell at the top and how many fell at the left hand side. So let me count 1 2 3 4, and here is 1 2. This is 4 against 2. It doesn't work. What will work is what? The both of them must be equal or one greater than each other. The both of them must be equal or one greater than each other. So this line I draw is not the line of best fit. So the line of best is supposed to be this particular 2. So that if I count here 1 2 3, correct, 1 2 3, correct, they are equal. So this is my line of best fit. So line of best fit is gotten when you count the one that fell out in the left hand side and the one that fell out in the right hand side. They must be equal or one greater than each other. Here can be 5 and here is 4, correct. Here can be 7, here is 8, correct. Here can be 10, here is 9, correct. They can be 10 10 or 2 2, something like that. So they must be equal to each other or one greater than each other, okay. So that is that. Then we need to find x bar. We need to find the mean x bar and what? Y bar. Now this point at where this thing met, in fact, where in regression we just have just one point where you can draw after counting. This point where they met is what? It's called the relationship between the x bar, okay, and the y bar, okay. It said this is the point of equivalence of x bar and y bar, okay. I get it that. So the line itself is called regression of y on x or regression of x on y. So the line plotted, this line plotted, is called the regression of y from x. That is if you are plotting y against x. But if you are plotting x now on the vertical axis against y on the horizontal axis, it will not be the regression of what? X from y, okay. That is for regression. Now for correlation is the same thing, but the difference between correlation and regression is that regression is talking about just one variable, but correlation is talking about 2 or more variables, okay. They say that correlation problem differs from regression problem in that it is concerned with the measurement of relationship between 2 or more variables rather than predicting one variable from knowledge of the independent variables, okay. So the difference between the both of them is simply that regression is talking about just one variable, while correlation is talking about what? One or more variables, okay. They said, so we define the linear correlation coefficient to be the measurement of linear relationship between two random variables x and y. We denote it as what? As p, small p like this. We denote, or file, not even p, is file, or roll. This is roll, not file, sorry, this is file. Why? This is roll. We denote it as what? As roll. And they said that it should be noted that correlation coefficient roll is equal to 0 implies that a lack of linearity, okay. Whenever that p is equal to, this roll is equal to 0, it does not mean that there is no correlation. It means that there is a lack of what? Linearity, okay. It doesn't mean that they lack relationship. There is relationship, but there is lack of a linearity. So it is not a linear correlation, okay. So that is that. Then the next thing we need to determine, to estimate a linear correlation coefficient, this is called linear correlation coefficient. So to estimate the linear correlation coefficient, we need a random sample of pairs of measurements x and y. Then by considering a scatter diagram of x and y values, okay, we will be able to draw a certain conclusion. If the point follows closely, okay. Now there is something I want to show you. Now look at another thing I want to show you that is very, very important. Now if we have a diagram, we have a graph like this, okay, and we plotted after getting our blah blah blah, and our line falls like this, so that we can draw our slope at the right hand side. If we can draw our slope at the right hand side, okay, it means that what? That the correlation is what? Highly positive correlation. This line is what? Highly positive correlation. But if it is like this, for instance, look at this. If it is like this and I'm drawing it to the left, you see, there is no way I can show it. My diagram, my triangle will fall at the left hand side. So if it is falling at the left hand side, we say that we are having a what? High negative correlation. Okay, high negative correlation. That is, maybe we have some things like this and a point somewhere here. But if we have something like this, watch. If we have something like this that we don't even know how to start drawing it, okay, we say that we are having a zero correlation. We are having what? A zero correlation. So in conclusion, there is no relationship between x and y. Okay. So the next thing we need to do, then sometimes we have this. We have that the point goes like this. Once it goes like a parallel, half of a circle, that is a parabola, we now say that it is what? A quadratic relationship. Okay, you know this is quadratic now. We say that is what? A quadratic relationship exists between x and y, which means the power of x, the power is what? 2. Remember that the quadratic, the power is what? The power of x is 2. So there is a quadratic relationship between them. So you need to note this thing, very, very important. They can draw something like this for you and ask you in exam, and they just draw a line like this and ask you, what correlation is this? Is it highly negative, or is it high negative correlation, or low high positive correlation, or zero correlation, or what? Or quadratic relationship. So you will see that you are drawing your line, your slope at the right hand side. So therefore this is what? High positive what? Correlation. And if you are drawing like this and you have this one coming this way, your slope is coming at the left hand side. This is what? High negative correlation. And the third one, if it is scattered that there is no way to even draw the line, we say that what? This is what? Zero correlation. And the last one, if it is in half of a circle like this, we now say that we have what? A quadratic relationship. Okay, we have a quadratic relationship. Remember that in this one there is no relationship in this one, so no correlation, no relationship. So let us solve some question. Okay, before we solve some question, there is something that is called correlation, rank correlation. Rank, in fact we have two types in finding rank. We need to know how to rank it. Rank correlation. Don't mind my mother tongue, our R and L is a problem. So in ranking correlation we have two types. The first one is called the Spearman's rank correlation, and the second one is called the Pearson product moment correlation, or we simply call it a sample correlation coefficient. Okay, the first one is called the Spearman correlation, and Spearman correlation will represent it with what? RK. Okay, Spearman ranking correlation, that's the first one. The first one is the Spearman's rank correlation. So in this one, the formula is very, very simple. It's just 1 minus 6 the summation of d squared all over n into n squared minus 1. Okay, now this formula is very, very important. I'm going to give you the two formulas. Now the second one is called the Pearson product moment. Okay, correlation, or sometimes we simply call it what? A sample correlation coefficient, or we call it what? A sample correlation coefficient. Okay, now the formula said that this is what? R is simply n the summation of x, y, the both of them first, then take them individually, minus the summation of x times the summation of what? Y. Okay, where both of them, number of both of them staying together. Okay, n both of them staying together minus each of them staying differently, all over. Now the next one we are going to have is now the square root the square root of n, the summation of, we are not taking their square, we are not taking their square, x squared, okay, minus the summation of x all squared. This is for x, okay, you cover it, multiplied by, you do the same thing for y, and the summation of y squared, like this, okay, minus the summation of y all squared. The square root is covering it, okay. So that is the formula. This formula is very, very important. You need to know this formula. Now from this formula we need to interpret something. There is something we need to interpret. Now, interpretation of correlation coefficient. Interpretation of correlation coefficient. Now generally, okay, now generally what we have is what, that the correlation coefficient will move from what, -1 is less than or equal to r, which is less than or equal to 1. It starts from -1 and ends in 1. So anything aside this place, we have to interpret it in another way, okay. Then I said a value of -1 or 1 will occur when sum of squares of the error SSE about the correlation lies equal to 0. But this is the case where all the points are a straight line, hence a perfect linear relationship between x and y, okay. So whenever you have a perfect linear relationship between x and y, we say that the first one, you need to know that if r is equal to plus or minus 1, we say that there is a perfect linear relationship okay, between x and y, okay. That is the first thing you need to know, number 1. Now number 2, values from, now anything that is now starting from between plus 0.5 to plus 0.9, we say that it is highly positive. Don't forget the way of highly positive. If it is now from 0.5 to 0.9, it's not equal to 1, we say that, we conclude, we say if r ranges from, okay, if r ranges from 0 plus 0.5 to plus 0.9, we say that there is a high positive correlation. We say that there is a high positive correlation, okay. Number 3, which is the last one, is now if it is now negative, if r is equal to minus 0.5 to minus 0.9, okay, if it falls within this range, we say that, what do we say? We say that there is a high negative correlation between x and y, or relationship. You know that correlation means relationship, correlation between x and y. So these are the 3 most important. You are getting it from here. If you solve this thing and you get anything, anything you get, you interpret it using this one. If you get exactly plus or minus 1, you will simply say that what, there is a perfect linear relationship. But if you get anything from plus 0.5 to plus 0.9, it is highly positive correlation. Minus 0.5 to minus 0.9, highly negative correlation, okay. So let us start solving some questions so that you can understand what we are saying. Now these formulas are not difficult to know. If you write them, if you solve question 3 to 4 times, writing them, you will master them, okay. Let me check my time. Okay, 19. So let's solve the first question. The first question said, number 1 said, the table below table below shows the corresponding values. Corresponding values of two variables, x and y. They now give us the two of them. Our x and our y, they say 33, 4, 31, 6, 28, 4, 10, 25, 10, 25, 10, 23, 12, 23, 12, 22, 22, 10, 19, 19, 19, 14, 17, 15, 16, 18, 14, 22. Okay, these are the things they gave us. They now say the first one said that we should plot a scattered diagram. Plot a scattered diagram. Okay, to represent the data above. Okay, then B, they say we should calculate x bar and y bar. Okay, the next one C, they said we should draw the line of best fit. Draw the line of best fit. Draw the line of best fit. Draw the line of best fit to pass through x bar, comma, y bar. Okay, then DI, they said relationship between A and B, relationship between x and y, x and y. We should find relationship between x and y. Okay, II for the D, they say the value, we should find the value of y when x is what? 24. Okay, now to plot this graph, you are now the one to plot the graph, and this is simply a linear graph. You need to choose your I'm going to do a video on graph. You need to choose your, what is it called? You need to choose your blah blah blah. What are we choosing? Our scale. If you choose your scale and plot it, okay, from the one they plotted here, they have something like this, and then it passes through like this. The thing went this way, okay. I don't know, and they had I thought that, what is this point? This is the point they are asking you that it passes through. That is x bar and y bar, the point where x bar and y bar met. Okay, so that is that. So the next one, from this graph, let us start calculating what they asked us to calculate. The first one, they say we should calculate x bar. X bar simply means the mean, and mean of something means summation of that thing, summation of all the x all over the number they are. So what do you do? Add everything in this x, which will give you 228 divided by the attending number, which is what? 22.8. Then y bar is the same thing, summation of y all over n, which is what? 115 over 10, which is what? 11.5. Okay, summation means add everything here and then divide it by 10, the attending number. Okay, so now the relationship, they say draw the line of best fit. We have drawn it. Okay, now relationship between x and y. Relationship between x and y, since we are plotting y against x, the relationship does not change. It's simply what? Y is equal to a plus what? bx. A plus what? bx. And how do you get your b? Don't forget that b is what? Slope. B is what? Slope, like I told you before. If you cannot remember it with this, let us do it with the normal one we know. If you cannot remember it with this, okay, B means slope, and slope is what? Change in y over what? Change in x. Okay, you need to find what this point is. This is my slope. Okay, in fact, we don't draw it. We need to find it from here to 0 and from here to this. Okay, that is our slope. We want to take this big one. Our slope here will give us change in y over change in. In fact, this is a negative slope. I hope you know. The slope fell at the left hand side. Or you do your own slope, but you will still get the same answer. If you don't want to use this point, you draw your own slope and start tracing, but it will take your time. So use this point you are seeing. Here and 0, here and 0. So, and change the y means what? Y2 minus y1 all over what? X2 minus x1. Okay, that is my slope. But this is a negative slope. Since it's a negative slope, one of them is going to change. Okay, one of them is going to change to be what? X1 minus x1 minus x2, so that I'll have a negative answer. Okay, so the one up here is my y2, the 0 here is my y1, the 0 here is my x1, and this one here is my x2. So to calculate it, permit me to clean here. So my b, which is the slope, is equal to what? From what they got, you can trace your own. From what they got 24.5, which is here, minus here is always 0, all over 0 now minus here. They got here as 36. So you now have b is equal to 24.5 divided by minus 36, which will give you minus 0.6 minus 0.681. Okay, minus 0.681. So therefore, this is not my relationship. Now we need to get our a. Okay, remember that a is equal to what? Sorry, a is the intercept. You know, in equation of you have y is equal to mx plus c. I hope you know where m is the slope and c is what? The intercept. The same thing here. Y is equal to what? Bx plus a. In fact, I like using this one. I don't even like using this one. It's the same thing. So c is what? The intercept on the y-axis. That is where y cut, where the line cut y. So the line cut y at this place they told us. So my a is what? 24.5. So therefore, the relationship, which is y is equal to a plus bx, is equal to y is equal to 24.5 plus my plus into what? Minus 0.681 x. What do we have? Y is equal to 24.5 minus 0.681 x. So this is their relationship. This is the relationship between x and y. Okay, it's not difficult to get. This is the relationship between x and y. Now the last question there said we should calculate y when x is now 24. We now have our formula that y is equal to 24.5 minus 0.681 x. So we say we should calculate y will now be equal to what? 24.5 minus 0.681 times 24. Because they say we should calculate y when x is 24. So if you do your math, you have 24.5 minus 16.344. So my y becomes 8.156. Okay, that is that. We are done with that. So let's go to the second question. I hope you're okay with this. Very, very simple. So we are using the knowledge of graph to get this. We are using the knowledge of graph to get this. So let us now talk about where they ask us the ranking. Okay, the coefficient, correlation coefficient. Okay, correlation coefficient. Let's go where they will ask us correlation coefficient. Now the question now, number 2, example 2 said the table below shows the prices of a commodity in 1999 and okay, the price commodity and the price commodity and the price of the same commodity, okay, and the price of the same commodity commodity in 2002 as naira of X and naira of Y respectively. Okay, so they now gave us okay, so I have this is for the month. This is my X and Y, my X and my Y. Okay, and we have January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. Okay, so we now have 1.00, 8.00, 1.50, 8.20, 1.25, 8.15, 1.60, 8.25, 1.40, 8.30, 2.00, 8.60, 2.10, 8.80, 2.20, 8.65, 2.60 again. Okay, 8.70. Sorry, 2.60, 8. So 2.40, 8.50, 2.50, 8.90, 3.00, 8.40. Okay, so from here the first question said that we should plot y against x. Okay, that's the first question. The second question, big question, said find the regression equation and obtain the coefficient of regression of y on x. Let me write it. Find the regression, find the regression equation. Okay, find the regression equation and obtain the coefficient of regression of y on x. The coefficient, obtain the coefficient of regression of y on x. Okay, then C, calculate the coefficient of rank correlation between the two prices and interpret your answer. Calculate the coefficient of rank. Okay, rank correlation, and interpret your answer between the prices, between the prices, and interpret your answer. Okay, so that is what they say we should do. Now the first thing we can calculate is okay, we are going to draw the graph the normal way you draw graph. Okay, after drawing your graph, we can get whatever we want to get from the graph. But before we do that, okay, the first question said find the relation. Okay, plot the graph. Okay, after plotting the graph, we need to find the relationship. Okay, Now let's get your S bar. I hope you know, to get your S bar, summation what? X all over n. To get your Y bar, summation Y all over n. Okay, that is your X bar and Y bar. So what do we have? X bar is now equal to 23.55 divided by 12. Y bar, if you add everything in X, you have 23.55. Then if you add everything in Y, you are having 101.45 divided by the same 12. So my X bar is equal to 1.96. My Y bar is equal to 8.45. Okay. Now we need to get our. Now when they plotted this graph, permit me to clean here. When they plotted this graph, I'm having something like this. Look at what I have. When they plotted this graph, they had something like this. Okay, so since it's like this, my slope is going to be positive because the slope is on the right hand side, and we know the relationship is what? Y. Since I'm plotting Y against X, you start from that Y. Y is equal to what? A plus BX. So my B is the slope. Anyone that is the coefficient of X is the slope. So my slope is what? Change in Y over change in X. And I'm using positive everywhere for me to get a positive answer because my slope is in the right hand side. But I told you, don't draw another slope. Simply make use of this. Okay? Simply make use of this to this point. Simply make use of this. So we need to get a point like this. Anything that is here and here, or you draw your own slope. If you are confused with this, just draw your own slope and trace it. Find the value of here and here. Find the value of here and here. So here is my y2, y1, x1, x2. Okay? So I'm having y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1. So if we have substitution, let's use what they used because I did not plot the graph. I'm going to have 8.75 minus 7.70 all over 2.75 minus 0.05. Okay, so let me clean this question. I'm done with the question. Okay, so I'm going to have that my slope B is equal to 0.389. Okay, and don't forget that my C is intercept on the y-axis. That is this point where it comes. So I'm having it as 7.70. So therefore the relationship becomes what? Y is equal to A plus what? BX, which is what? Y is equal to 7.70 plus 0.389x. Very simple. That is the relationship. Okay, so now the next thing we need to calculate is what? The ranking. Let's calculate the rank. They say calculate the coefficient of rank. Find the regression equation. Regression equation, this is the regression equation. That is the relationship. I thought that correlation and regression means the relationship between them. Okay? And obtain the coefficient of regression of y on x. The coefficient of regression of y on x. So the coefficient of regression of y on x is the slope. Okay, please. The slope is the coefficient of regression, okay, of y on x. Note the coefficient of regression of write it down. The coefficient of regression of y on x is simply slope. Is simply the slope. And what is my slope? This is my slope. So this man now is what? The coefficient of regression of y on x. As simple as that. So the next thing we need to calculate is what? We need to calculate the ranking. Okay, now we can use any method to calculate the ranking. We can use the first method or the second method. And the first method I told you is called the Spearman ranking, and that is the one I love using. The Spearman ranking R is equal to 1 minus n the summation of what? D squared. I hope I'm correct. All over, okay, 6, not n. The n there is 6. So I'm having 6 the summation of this all over n into n squared minus 1. Okay, that is the formula. If you write this formula like 7 times solving questions, you will get used to the formula. So let us use the formula. Before then, we need to arrange. Okay, remember, before you do this thing, you must arrange it. That is why it is called ranking. You must rank it, and our ranking is always in descending order. Please don't rank in ascending order. Rank in descending order. Okay? So we are going to rank in descending order. So you rank your X, you rank your Y. Okay? You rank your X, you rank your Y. So I have January, February, March, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, and December. Okay? Now for my X, sorry, this is my I shouldn't have started from there. Okay, for my X, let me clean it. This is the months. This is my X. So the months I'm having January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. Okay. Now I'm going to rank according to what? Sorry, in ascending order. That's what we rank, not descending order, please. In ascending order. And ranking in ascending order, if you check that the value they gave us, it started from 1.00, 1.50, okay, 1. Okay, I want to rank everything. Let me write all my X. 1.20, 1.25, 1.60, 1.40, 2.00, 2.10, 2.20, 2.60, 2.40, 2.50, and 3.00. Okay, so now we need to rank it. After writing your X, write the rank of X. So let us rank. In ranking it, I told you we are starting, sorry, descending order, not ascending. I'm correct, descending order. So in descending order, we are having that so 1.00 descending order, that is from the highest, and the highest here is 3. So this is my 1, 2.5, 2, sorry, 2.62. This is my 2. This is my 2. Please make sure you don't make mistake. This is my 3. This is my 4. This is my 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That is my ranking. So 8, 9, 11, 8. Sorry, 12, 9, 11, 8, 10, 7, 6, 5, 2, 4, 3, 1. Yes. So now let me write my Y according to what they gave me. Okay, according to what they gave me, they said that Y for January is 8.00, 8.20, okay, 8.15, 8.25, 8.30, 8.60, 8.80, 8.65, 8.70, 8.50, 8.90, 8.40. Okay, so let us rank from the highest. So which one is the highest now? 8.90 is the highest. I'm having for ranking of Y. I'm ranking, this is the first rank. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So let me check if it's correct. 12, 10, 11, 9, 8, 5, 2, 4, 3, 6, 1, 7. Correct. So now my D, to get your D is simply the rank of X minus the rank of Y. The rank of X minus the rank of Y. So let us start subtracting. This minus this, 0. I'm having 0, 1. I don't have time. Just be subtracting. 12 minus 12, 0. 9 minus 10 is minus 1. Is minus 1. Okay. 11 minus 11, 0. 8 minus this, minus 1. This minus this, 2. 7 minus this, 2. This minus this, 4. This minus this, 1. This minus this, minus 1. This minus this, minus 2. This minus this is 2. This minus this is minus 6. Okay. So the next line we need to get is D squared. Because of this squared. So D squared. My D squared becomes squared is 0. Squared is 1. 0, 1, 4, 4, 16, 1, 1, 4, 4, and 36. I hope you know what is squared. Something times itself. 0 times 0 is 0. 1 times 1 this time this. And in squared, minus will disappear. Okay? For squared. Okay. That is that. So we have gotten our D. So the next thing we need to get now is our N. And N is what? N is obvious. They are 12 in number. So my ranking now, my R becomes 1 minus 6. We have to get the summation of this. If you add this thing now, we need to get the summation. So the summation becomes summation D squared gave us 72 if you add it. So my answer becomes 6 times 72 all over 12 bracket 12 squared minus 1. Very simple something. R is equal to 1 minus, if you do everything there, this times this, you are having 4, 3, 2 divided. First of all, this squared is 144. 144 minus 1 is 143. 143 times 12, you have 1716. So my R becomes 1 minus this divided by this is giving me 0.25. Okay, so my R becomes 1 minus this, which will give me 0.75. So what do you think the interpretation will be? Is it high negative correlation or high positive correlation, or it has a perfect linear correlation? So which one is it? Since it is positive, and the positive ranges from 0.5 to 0.9, you say that it is what? This is high positive correlation. That is the interpretation. Okay, there is a high positive correlation between X and Y. That is how you interpret it. There is a high positive correlation between X and Y. So that is that. Thank you very much for watching. Let me check my time. Okay, in next class we solve more questions. God bless you.